CrossFit and the vertically challenged. That's what we're going to talk about today, trying to remain politically correct. Welcome to the channel, Old Guy Inc., where I don't do a lot of prep work. If you haven't noticed, I don't do a whole bunch of video editing. I don't splice in a whole bunch of other videos. I pretty much just have something come to my mind, and then I think about all my years in CrossFit and what's my opinion, and I just start talking about it. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. So I think I'm going to be all over the board a little bit today when I talk about something I just saw on the morning chalk up. So another shout out to them for putting things out in a timely manner. But this is in regards to bar height and regionals. Some of you might know that there was a little bit of a snafu with a taller athlete last weekend who basically could just reach up and touch the bar with the feet still on the floor. And any of us who have ever been in class scrambling, trying to pick a pull-up bar, fighting with somebody else, because having the right pull-up bar height makes a huge difference. And of course we know this because we've been catering to the vertically challenged for as long as CrossFit has been around. So whether you are a female or just a shorter male athlete, making things available to you like boxes or pads or risers, whatever they are, to allow those athletes to not have to do more work by jumping up to the bar. We've always allowed them to basically adjust the bar height basically by adjusting the floor height, right? So it's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. But so we have athletes adjusting the distance between the ground they're standing on and the height of the bar in every single CrossFit competition really that there's ever been. So the news here now is that it's official that CrossFit was brought a concern. They listened to it. They discussed it, which at least I'll give them credit for that because I'm always looking for a positive. But basically they came out and said, yeah, screw you if you're tall. You're just going to have to modify your gymnastic movements so that your feet don't hit the floor. The end. And then the shorter people, they get to just keep getting it exactly where they want it. Now, little disclaimer, because I think this is important, okay? I consider myself in the middle, okay? I am 72 inches tall exactly. I am 6 feet. I am not, to me, that's like the cutoff. If you're like 5'10" to 6 feet, you're in the middle, okay? If you're under 5'10", I think you're a little bit shorter, right? You get closer to 5'8" and under. If you're over 6 feet, I think you're a taller athlete. So I actually think I'm a good person to talk about this because I think I fall in the middle. I don't think I'm super tall and I don't think I'm super short. Therefore, I don't have a huge stake in what they do. Their standard bar height is perfectly fine for me. There's been times in the past where they've had standard ring heights, and that really hasn't been a major problem for me either. So like I said, I'm going to jump all over the place because I don't know, I'm less concerned about the actual specifics of just this bar height thing than, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the bottom line is, man, it's really not up for debate that CrossFit caters to the shorter athlete. Okay, let me just dive right into the meat of it here, okay? CrossFit is supposed to be measuring work capacity, right? Across broad time and modal domains, right? Work capacity. That's the basis of CrossFit. It's the philosophy of CrossFit. It's what CrossFit was built on, is we're supposedly measuring work capacity, and we're trying to find those athletes who have the largest work capacity. Here's the problem, okay? To find work, okay, we have to know the force and the distance. So the distance must be given if you want to make everybody be equal, okay? And so anytime, let's just use any movement that involves a barbell, okay? So work equals force times distance. So the force or the load, let's say a 95-pound barbell, pretty simple, right? I mean, obviously we standardize that. The problem is the distance is never the same. So what we're really testing in CrossFit is rep capacity. You do understand that, right? It's important to understand that. Now, I'm not trying to turn CrossFit upside down. What I'm just saying is I love CrossFit, but this isn't like news to me. This has always been the way it is. If you know anything about physics, then you've known from the beginning that you started CrossFit that if the person next to you is picking up 95 pounds, and if I'm just making these up round numbered, if I have to pick this bar up, move it all the way up over my head into a snatch position, okay, we're talking like 8 feet of bar travel. Well, if the person next to me is like 5'8", 5'6", they're moving 95 pounds. When they're at full extension, they might only be like at 6 feet or 7 feet. And so since the bar is going all the way up into the snatch and then all the way back down to the floor, let's just say it's only a difference of, they're moving at 7, I'm moving at 8. Okay, well that's 1 foot on the way up, 1 foot on the way down. So that means every single rep, the taller athlete is moving the bar, in my example, 2 feet further. So if you take the 95 pounds of the force times the distance, then that means every single rep, the taller athlete is scientifically, by definition, doing more work. Okay, so taller athletes have always had to do more work than their shorter counterparts in most CrossFit movements. Now, there are some movements that the work is defined, like on the rower, calories, meters, on any sort of a monostructural kind of event. Of course, you do still have the difference of body weight. That gets a little bit even more complicated. But if we're just talking about external loads that we're applying to athletes, the load is always standard, but the distance is rarely the same, okay? Unless it's like a monostructural type thing, like I said, or if they're using a machine. So now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, taller athletes, it's a given that if we have to do X amount of thrusters, okay, that athlete A, who's shorter, is moving the bar significantly less distance, therefore, without debate, doing significantly less work than you. That's just tough shit. That's just the way it is. Now, I'm not suggesting I have a way of how to fix that. I'm simply stating the facts. So that's important. Do not hate the messenger. I'm not saying that CrossFit needs to change the way that it scores its events. I'm just saying that, to me, it's not up to debate that we are not figuring out who has the greatest work capacity. We're figuring out who has the best rep capacity. And I'm going to keep saying that because that's what we're measuring at least 7 or 8 out of 10 times. We're saying this is how many reps you need to do, and whoever does that much work, it's really not work, it's whoever does that many reps the fastest wins. If we somehow, okay, we're using some fancy cameras and stuff, which we do have, right? And we had little chips on bars. If we were measuring bar path and distance, if we wanted to have people do equal amounts of work, I know this is crazy, I'm not suggesting we do, but athletes would have to do different numbers of reps. Okay, that's like on the rower. So let's reverse it. Let's say if on the rower, instead of saying you had to row 10 calories, okay, what they did is they said, well, everybody just has to do 10 pulls. Well, okay, but each person at the end of those 10 pulls, every athlete would have done a different amount of work. So how would that be fair? So you follow me, right? Because to me, that analogy makes perfect sense. It's like put somebody on an echo bike and say, okay, all you have to do is cycle the thing 1, 2, 3. All you have to do is cycle it X amount of times, and it doesn't really matter what the metric on your screen is. Well, we don't do that because we want everybody to do the same amount of work. So when we're on an implement like that, we say, hey, everybody has to do X amount of calories. However many pulls that takes you, however many revolutions per minute that takes you, that's going to be different for each athlete, but the work capacity is the same. So the more efficient you are, okay, maybe if you're a taller athlete in that regard, you can do it in less pulls. So there's a little bit of an advantage possibly if you're taller, right? I'm not saying taller athletes don't ever get an advantage. And like I said, what I'm really doing is kind of switching the conversation to talk about, are we really measuring work capacity? And I'm saying we're not. And so 9 out of 10 times, 7 or 8 out of 10 times, I believe the shorter athletes are doing less work. Now you take that to the CrossFit Games, you have 14 events in which you're doing less work in 10 of them. That's quite an advantage, okay? So now to circle back, now you want to also say, not only does the taller athlete have to do more work because their arms are so much longer, okay, that they are moving their body mass a greater distance, let's say on every chest to bar pull-up. So every rep, they're doing more work. Now you want to put them at an even greater disadvantage by saying, yeah, but now you can't really practice the technique that you do at home where you have the right size bar. You're going to have to tuck your feet up a little bit. You're going to have to be thinking that you don't hit the floor. You might have to go wider with your arms. You're going to have to do something to adjust your technique because we're not going to cater to you. But the guy next to you, okay, he's shorter. He's not going to have to do more work though. Don't worry. We're not going to make him jump up to the bar, you know what I mean? Because that would be like athletic fitness, like having a little bit of vertical leap. We're gonna let him climb up on something so he can get the perfect, oh, no, that's not right. Hold on, let me adjust that a little bit, get it just perfect for me. I'm calling bullshit, yes. So here I am, Clay being a little bit negative, a little bit whiny, but really what I'm more trying to do is just point out some facts. So let me make this clear before I get all the haters, okay? I'm not saying Matt Frazier isn't the fittest athlete on the planet. I'm not saying there wasn't during his reign. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he's doing a hell of a lot less work than Brent Fikowski during a workout. There you go. That's what I'm saying. By definition, by science, it's fact. We could study it. We could put him in a lab. If we measured the distance that they're moving a barbell or a dumbbell or their own body weight on a gymnastics movement, they are doing less work. Force times distance equals work. If the force is the same and their distance is less, they're doing less work. So there it is. I put it out there. If you've really never thought of that before, I hope you realize that, like, I'm not just blowing smoke out my ass. It's not an opinion. It's all based on science. There are formulas for work and power, okay? And it requires a component of distance. So once again, we standardize weight. Everybody's using a 50-pound dumbbell. Everybody's using 95 pounds on the barbell. Everybody's going from the ground to overhead. Whoop! But that distance is different for everybody. So there are some significant advantages. Once again, I'm not here saying that there are not advantages in some movements for being a larger athlete. There are, specifically in monostructural movements. What I'm saying is that in general, the vast majority of CrossFit movements involve an external weight and a rep count, okay? The majority of the time, distance plays a factor in the component of work, and it's not a set amount like a rower or running or a skier, you know, whatever it is, okay? So that's it. Hopefully that made some sense. So to me, this is just another hit to the taller athletes, and I don't really quite understand it. I mean, I really don't. Once again, I know there's some logistics involved, and yeah, it's really, really nice to have a set height, but we already have the implements in place for all of the shorter ladies and all of the shorter dudes to get up to that standard pull-up height. So why would it be harder to just raise the standard pull-up height? Like, stop disadvantaging the taller athletes. It's not up for debate anymore. Taller athletes do have a disadvantage. They're not doing the same amount of work. They're doing more. Do your math, look it up, understand a little bit of physics. It's not up for debate. The amount of times that being a taller athlete benefits you is there, but it is way less than 50% of the time. So throughout the days or whatever's the different events of a good quality CrossFit competition, it's not 50-50. It's not. Look at any competition programming, and the vast majority of events will involve a weight and a distance component that will be disproportionate for the taller athletes. So there you have it. So hit me up with all the hate. All the short people jump all over me, tell me how tall I am at being 6 feet, and I'm just a hater because I suck and I'm not very good, and I'm just blaming it on the short people. I mean, hit me with it, because that's not what I said. If you listen to the whole video, you'll understand I'm just presenting the facts, the physics, the formula for how you determine work capacity, and I don't believe CrossFit is truly testing work capacity. I'm also admitting that I'm not here to provide right now in this video what do I think they should do, okay? Maybe I'll talk about that some other time. I'm just presenting it to you so you can think, huh, that's interesting. I really hadn't thought of that. Thanks, Clay. Old Guy Inc. Hit subscribe. I appreciate it. Thanks.